So this here is our web page, and what we've done is actually condensed all the information from the original website into a single page system, into a single page website. And this is because this is mainly just a this website serves mainly to inform and to advertise its annual year-long program, and so that one program will suffice when it's presented in one single consistent page. And so we begin with our header, and this is of course our desktop layout, and I'll explain and showcase my mobile and tablet layouts later in this video. So briefly, we begin with our navigation over here, transparent navigation, which when we scroll below actually changes to a white opaque navigation. We do see content scrolling through behind that navigation just so that the user does not get confused, and it's still somewhat intuitive that this content is moving below this navigation. In our header, we also see that when we're scrolling, there is a parallax effect that's been used very commonly in modern web design, and it's something that is a great aesthetic feature in most modern designs. We have our main slogan here and our subheadings. Our nominate and learn more buttons. Learn more scrolls us to the next page, or the next section, which is the about section, and the nominate button, which has been given more importance with the red color, navigates the user to a Google form, which is the actual application for the program. We go to our about section using our scrolling navigation. We see our three columns, three aspects of the program. Upon the user's discretion, if they are interested in reading more about that particular aspect, they can click keep reading, and more information is revealed below, and they can do the same for all three columns. Of course, without that additional information, the user is presented with a nice summary that doesn't overload the user with too much information, and keeps the user engaged in what the website and each section has to offer. Below this, when we scroll to our dates section, we see our table with the actual schedule for the 2016 program, and our three tabs that, when we click plus, reveal additional details about these three particular events. So here there's a summary of what the event's about. There's a date with an icon above it, and a location over here. And this occurs the same way for meeting phase and residential week. As you can see, when one tab opens, the other panel closes. So when we move below to our committees and FAQs section, this works the same way, except of course these are all committees that the users can be involved in. And when we click here, the plus sign actually changes to a minus, so we know that when we're clicking, this is actually to minimize a tab, and with the plus, we are to expand the tab. And this works in the same way, where each tab reveals its respective piece of information, and when we open one tab, the other closes, and this works in the same way for the FAQs section. These two sections have been displayed side by side, alongside in line with each other, because they fit nicely with each other on a large enough layout, although the user can scroll specifically to this section, as we can see in the mobile and tablet layouts later on. Below this, we have our team acknowledgement, which is basically a list acknowledging all the organizers that are or the facilitators of this program. And below this, we have our sponsors, with each logo providing a link for the user to actually go to that specific organization. Like I can see open in new tabs over here. And back to our website, we can see that below here is actually a hyperlink which has the link to contact the organization for any inquiries relating to sponsors or media. And below this, we have another quite important aspect of the website, that being the email subscription. We have an image that accompanies this to attract, of course, the user to this specific section, and also give context to what exactly they're signing up for, seeing as we are pretty discreet. We have a pretty discreet use of images throughout the website. So when we go back, there is also a email subscription form. So this is the main form of contact for the organizations. Hence, this has been given particular importance compared to some other sections. So we can actually type our email in here, and we can go click subscribe. There's another snippet of information on top of here as well. We scroll down now just to see reveal our footer. This keeps true to the minimalist approach of this website, and that is the essential design principle of most modern web design, with a simple declaration, a legal declaration, etc., and an option to go back to top with that little icon here, sourced from the material design library as well. We go back, we can scroll back to our main header. And so that is the desktop layout for this website redesign. So obviously this is a responsive design, so this works on any screen size, and of course that means it works effectively on tablet and mobile platforms as well, without having to issue another separate link to a phone version or a tablet version of the website. We can see resizing using this Chrome tool here, how the design actually changes according to screen size. If we go to our presets and select the iPad preset, a common tablet used by users and of course young people, the layout remains generally the same, seeing as the iPad and tablets themselves are relatively large, and so if text were to take up the full width of the screen, it may be too wide and it might not look as good as it might with columns. Our nominate and learn more buttons are now located on top of each other, and we can still scroll down with our navigation. Our navigation doesn't change for the most part of the tablet platform, and we still have our columns here with the option to expand on either column. If we go below, our schedule section remains the same with the option to reveal information as per the desktop layout as well, and this occurs in the same way for our committees and FAQ section, where they display side by side. The team acknowledgement section also remains the same, and our sponsors section also remains the same. If we go below, our email subscription form is the main thing that changes, with the image accompaniment now appearing in a narrower field, and the email subscription form remaining the same. Below, our footer has also adjusted. We can click back to the top, and if we go to now a smaller design, I'll use the Nexus 5X preset layout, which actually gives us the idea of how it would look on a phone screen, with this section above here and these little options that appear generally on Android phones below. And now our Learn More button has disappeared, and seeing as it's not as important, seeing as scrolling to the About section is not that much of an issue, and our Nominate section has been given importance, now the center of the header. Our navigation has obviously changed so that we have a hamburger menu over here. When we click it, or touch it for that matter, we still have the ability to scroll to our respective sections. If we go back to the home page, the header, and we scroll down, we also have our same About section, of course with the option to expand for more information. Below that we have our Date section again. Now this more information can be revealed, and that takes up the full width of the screen, appearing above the actual table. And below that, our Committees and Frequently Asked Questions sections now appear below, on top of each other. So the Committees section, we can scroll to that using our navigation, and our Frequently Asked Questions section we can also scroll to take below. And this works the same way as it did in desktop and tablet. If we go below, a list, the team acknowledgement is now displayed in a list form with its respective administration team, program development, participant development teams being mentioned here. As sponsors has been displayed in a slightly different format, with the logo still at the center of attention. And when we scroll below, the image accompaniment to the email subscription form has disappeared, now with the email, the actual form where we can type in our email, taking up the full width of the screen. And our footer is also adjusted accordingly. If we touch this aspect here, we can scroll back to the header of the page. So this is our HTML section for coding for the website you just saw. We'll be brief on each section unless there are some particular points that are noteworthy, because there is a lot of content that is covered in this one file, seeing as this is an entire one-page layout. So in our head, just briefly, this is our link to our Bootstrap CSS file, which is, of course, has all the classes that we make reference to, that takes advantage of the Bootstrap framework. We have a link to our custom Google font. We have a link to our style sheet, and we have a link to the Google Material Icons library, which is responsible for the dates icon and the location icon, and also that arrow in the footer that allows you to go back to the top of the page. So in our body, we start off with our navigation. We use the Bootstrap class container, fluid, and container, which actually allows the navigation to toggle such that it displays with the hamburger menu, which is what this is responsible for over here. We also attach the class page scroll over here, which allows this link to actually scroll the user to that location, as you saw, and that actually links to the JavaScript, uses JavaScript to actually animate that aspect. And here we see below the links to all of our different sections. If we go down to our header, there's nothing too significant. I'll briefly explain the Bootstrap grid system that works over here. So the Bootstrap grid system works in a way that the whole page is divided into 12 columns, and within those 12 columns we can also divide into a further 12 columns, etc., etc. Without getting too complicated, this is basically occupying 3 of the 12 columns in the entire width of the website, and we're offsetting this by 3 columns so that it appears neatly centered against this second button, the Learn More button over here. If we move below, we have a About section. The div class container and div class row, using Bootstrap classes to actually make sure that the container class allows the content to remain within a set width for the website, and the row section actually allows items to display in line with each other. Just briefly, this is we have 3 divisions. Our Parliament heading, which are the 3 columns that you see in the About section that later display on top of each other for mobile phones and smaller screens. We have our Dates section. So here we use Bootstrap classes, the panel Bootstrap classes, which actually allows us to use the expandable option. We see that in our About section as well, but this is perhaps more. This is a more complicated version of that. Within this division, we use the ID. We use these classes to basically allow this button, which links to which uses a link through the data parent to this ID over here, so that this remains exclusive to that group of panels, and its data target is directly to date 1, which is actually this division here with the paragraph that reveals more information specific to this first column over here. And we see that repeated for the last 2 events. And this is, of course, our table with the respective dates, the schedule for the entire program. Below that, we see our committees and FAQs section. This is actually one section, although we've divided that into two divisions that each have their own IDs, namely committees and FAQs, so that the user can actually scroll below to that using the navigation if they need to. And this uses the same function, of course, with its own styling, revealing information, using the same accordion and panel Bootstrap classes. If you go below, we see our team acknowledgement section, relatively insignificant as opposed to any specific HTML elements. Although we do below this, we see our sponsors section, and here we have our form subscription section, which uses a Bootstrap class form in for forms. The form inline option allows everything here to display in line with each other, and the input here is for the email, and the button here is to submit. This here is actually the division that adjusts with a background image of that image that you see accompanying the footer, the email subscription area. And below this, we see our footer. Below that, we see our various links to jQuery files, some of which came with the Bootstrap plugin. Noteworthy, of course, is the stellar.min.js, which is actually responsible for the parallax effect. If we go back to our header quickly, our header section actually makes reference to this here, which actually allows the parallax effect to take place using that JavaScript file. And we have a scrolling plugin, which is responsible, which actually animates the scrolling part of the navigation. Now, if we go to our CSS, to our style sheet that's exclusive to this website, and restyle some of the Bootstrap elements, I'll make mention quickly of any particular important aspects of this, seeing as there is a lot of CSS. We link to our material icons library over here as well, and we set our parameters for the material icons. We go below. We use font size. We set the font size to 62.5%. So that's a clever way of actually. So when we want to use rem sizes for fonts, we can actually. So for example, 16 pixels will now translate into 1.6 rem, which would actually appear in the same size, and so that's a convenient way of using rem sizes. It's also responsive. This is our custom font over here for the whole body. If we scroll down, we see styling for the panel section that you saw, generally speaking. And below this, we see styling for what happens to the body and such. We have our main parameters for the section, which sets the padding to 50% top and bottom for each section. Below this, we have various styles for the navigation. This navigation defaults over here is basically what happens to the, or basically the styling for the navigation for phone, tablet, and desktop actually when we scroll below. So for the phone, this would appear by default. For tablets and desktop, this would appear when we scroll below. And this allows the navigation to turn into that opaque fixed navigation bar. And we see more styling over here for various aspects of the navigation, particular some things that are noteworthy. We have reference to the actual A tags or the links, and that actually changes color when hovered upon and so on. And this is all of our formatting for the navigation for widths, for larger widths such as the tablet and the desktop. We have our styling for a header, nothing of too much importance. If we scroll below, we see our styling for our form over here, and we see the styling for the side image classes, go right, and image holder background image holder, and background image. These are all basically styling for that image accompaniment that accompany the email subscription form section, and this allows it to basically the background to remain static and keeping that section as like a window that actually just reveals parts of the image, as opposed to the image being a single object that actually interferes with the layout of the rest of the section. And below we have our footer styling here. So there is a lot of CSS, but the main noteworthy parts of it are the fact that we make reference to the button and the navigation links and so on, so that when they hovered upon, they change color, etc., according to different sections. And the rest has been provided is using Bootstrap, restyling Bootstrap classes so that they adhere to the design principle of this website redesign. So that is the HTML and CSS of both of that one page you saw earlier. Thank you.